Pope Francis approves Catholic blessings for same-sex couples, but not for marriage. Pope Francis has granted his formal approval, allowing Catholic priests to bless same-sex couples as long as they do not appear to endorse their marriage, marking the church's most permissive decree yet on the issue of same-sex couples. Yeah, it was 10 out of 10. Savage joke. The declaration, published Monday in a new document titled something I'm not going to even try to say, on the pastoral meaning of blessings, marks a major departure for the Vatican. I like that word, departure. They surely departed, which only 2 years ago had said God cannot bless sin. So 2 years ago, the Vatican's stance on sin in general was we cannot bless that. We will not give blessing to anything that we consider to be sin, which granted, they have their own versions and ideas about sin from, I'd say the rest of Christianity. But obviously a lot of those things do align. In a controversial 2021 decision was when they said they cannot bless sin about same-sex couples. So I guess within the context, though, they were talking about same-sex couples, but they used the general sin to express it. Monday's document was approved by Pope Francis. So 2 years ago, no sin within the conversational context of same-sex couples. Now, it's so interesting. It seems as if the church is shifting with culture or something. Still, the Vatican stressed that marriage remains exclusively between a man and a woman, and any priest granting a blessing to same-sex couples must avoid any form of confusion or scandal that could suggest otherwise. This is a very tall order. It's a very tall order to give to priests, to say you are permitted to bless same-sex couples, but not marriage. So basically, you can support homosexuality as long as they don't want to commit to each other, is the way that reads to me. Jeremiah, gotcha. One sec. All right, you're good. Once you accept it, you're good. To me, that's wild. It's it's in and of itself is confusing, and they want the priest to avoid any form of confusion or scandal. The concept is confusing. Just flatline. The concept is confusing. Jeremiah, did you have something here before I start rambling again and reading? Jeremiah, we cannot hear you. Just so you know, just rudely interrupt me as soon as you get it figured out. Francis, 87, has made liberalization towards LGBTQ Catholics a hallmark of his papacy, since he became Pope in 2013. He has urged the decriminalization of homosexuality. When asked in 2013 about gay priests, he famously replied, "If someone is gay and he searches for the Lord, he has goodwill. Who am I to judge?" I have a question about this. I have a question. He was asked about gay priests. My understanding, spending 8 years in Catholic school, is priests are not allowed to act on sexual urges at all. So, and obviously, like, we don't have a whole lot of context, but what does it matter if they're gay? You can't act on it. A priest can't get married. A priest can't have sex. A priest can't be intimate. So what's the point? Like, I guess why, like, sure, everybody's going to have a proclivity one way or the other. I get that. But does it matter? If a part of your commitment is, like, the whole idea is that you're married to Christ and that your focus is solely and wholly devoted to Christ, I find that extremely confusing. We'll come back to this, though. Monday's declaration is a major step forward, debatable, for the church in regards to LGBTQ people, said the Reverend James Martin, an American Jesuit priest who has advocated for the LGBTQ Catholic community. The declaration recognizes the deep desire in many Catholic same-sex couples for God's presence in their loving relationship. Martin wrote on the social media site X, formerly known as Twitter. In short, yesterday, as a priest, I was forbidden yesterday as a priest, I was forbidden to bless same-sex couples at all. Today, with some limitations, I can. The reality is that the Pope does work with the WEF. And I mean, I think everybody here in our group is pretty much, I would assume, is against the WEF, or at least is questioning, is inquisitive of the WEF and what they're doing and why they're doing it, and the One World Government thing. But like they have a direct tie. It's not hidden. It's not a secret. It's been very public all through COVID. It was very public. It's just rough. It's a hard pill to swallow when the people at the highest levels of what is supposed to be counterculture and is supposed to be about God and not about, human governmental systems or control has kind of fallen into that position. It's unfortunate. What about this though? What about this? How do you guys feel about this? So the Catholic, just here is a very brief history of the Catholic Church with homosexuality. The Catholic Church has always hated homosexuality. When I was growing up in Catholic school, if you said the word, you would get hit. Like you'd get the rule. It was an old school Catholic. Things would happen. It's not okay. They absolutely despised homosexuality, in my experience, and the experience of people around me. So I'm sure there were some that not so much, but the Catholic Church held on to tradition for a very long time. They were in the beginning, some of the last people within Christianity, of the people who turned, there were some of the last to kind of be like, okay, I guess we have to accept this. I think it's just culture, though. I think they're just adopting culture, kind of like they always have. The Catholic Church is super involved in climate change. They seem to get involved in whatever call it the One World Government just to make it easy to understand. But what the very high levels of authority in the world, what they start pushing, the Catholic Church is not far behind. If you pay attention, the Catholic Church at the highest levels is not far behind. Not the Catholic Church in general. But do you guys have any thoughts about this? Do you agree with it? Do you disagree with it? I mean, they're not blessing marriages, but they are blessing same-sex couples, which assumes those couples are probably having sex. So they're blessing same-sex sexual intercourse, which I think is a hard thing to do. If it's a biblical standpoint, I think it's a hard thing to do.
So, Joe, I have a little bit of insight and kind of, I hate that I'm like the one Catholic and I have like a little bit of pushback because I swear it has nothing to do with super supporting the Catholic Church or whatever. It literally has nothing to do with it. It could be any.
Oh, no, absolutely. Pushback.
Yeah, no, definitely pushback.
But I guess the way that I see it is, and again, I read a lot of articles about this one leading up to today because and maybe this is a type of sin that kind of I do know and love a lot of gay people, and so maybe I'm sure I have a bias here. But yeah, the way I see it, and I guess I'll pose a question: do you see it any different than, like, let's say somebody had marriage outside or sex outside of marriage, and the woman got pregnant and has no plans on getting married, but is, having a baby, and then a priest or whomever decides to bless that pregnancy and say, well, you did something really wrong. I'm not condoning what you did. However, I still want you to follow Christ. I still want you to repent for your sins, and I still want this to go well. Or let's say somebody going into an AA meeting, and these people, are, let's say they're falling into gluttony, we could say, or whatever you kind of want to say, alcoholism or whatever it may be, that I'm not condoning what you're doing, but I bless you. I want Christ to be with you. I want the church to be with you. I want you to have our support so that you don't, I think they should turn from their sin. I don't think they should continue in that sin per se, but I also think it's just maybe important for them to know that, like, you're still blessed. You're still accepted by the church. I don't think just pushing people away and saying you're not blessed, you're not accepted, we don't want good things for you, I suppose.
Yeah.
Like, I think they're trying to not push people away, because I think I know a lot of people who turned away from the church, turned away from religion completely because they said, well, they say I'm going to go to hell, and so why would I even want to be a part of that? If they just think I'm a piece of shit, I'm going to go to hell, I'm an awful person, I'm sinning, why would I want to be a part of a community like that? So
let me pose a question back to you. So where does that end? If you start doing that as a church,
so
here's the thing. On one hand, I actually agree with what they're doing. I never gave my opinion. I think as far as organized Christianity, which you guys know I don't belong to. I think as organized Christianity, I think it's very tough to have this position. I think it's very, very hard. Just from objectively, I think it's very, very hard. Personally, I'm all about this because I've always said I don't see homosexuality as any different than adultery. I don't see it as any different than any other sin. I've always said this. We've talked about it a million times. So I guess I'll say I'm indifferent to it. I don't support it. I'm indifferent to it. But the other hand, which I love that you brought it up because I think it's a really good point, is that, they're trying to be accepting. They're trying to be so cool. But when does that end? Because that's, if you look through, call it the past 50 years, and I don't even disagree with you, but you have to be able to kind of distinguish, well, when is it over? Over the past 50 years, you just see that incrementally continue. And now we have drag shows in churches. So it's on one hand, I don't disagree with it. On the other hand, I would throw up if I saw a drag show in a church with kids dancing around putting dollar bills in somebody's thong. So it's it's like it's a tightrope walk of there needs to be a line. So then where is the line?